Welcome to page 20 of Accel Pkt number 4. On this page, we see our I can statement. I can compare a graph, a table, an equation, and take those three things and determine which one has the best unit rate for the proportional relationship. Before we jump into a problem, let's take a look at some of the information we might need for a proportional relationship. Take these notes down at the top of your page. K equals, your constant of proportionality equals y divided by x, or the ratio y over x. We also may need this equation. The basic format for a proportional equation is K, the constant of proportionality, times x equals y. And finally, if we had to write the unit rate as an ordered pair, we would write 1, whatever the K rate is, or the constant of proportionality. In this case, we are looking for which dog eats the most pounds per day. So we're comparing the amount of dog food each dog eats per day. So there are our units that we're going to be using. Pounds certainly is the Y value per 1 day. Let's begin. Sam the dog. In this case, they've given us an equation. K times X equals Y. It's our job to find the unit rate. Well, we know that K equals 0.6. Let's write that as a ratio. 0.6 over 1. If we take that ratio and dress it up with some units, let's write it down here. We know the top number represents pounds and the bottom number is a day number. So our first dog eats 0.6 pounds per 1 day. Well, that was easy. That's our first unit rate. Now, you may want to grab a calculator for the next two. They will require a little bit of calculation. So dog number 1 is Sam the dog. Let's move on to number 2, Bark the dog. Bark can eat 12.6 pounds of dog food in 18 days. So let's set up a ratio. Pounds on top, days on the bottom. This is not a unit rate. We know for a unit rate, yes, pounds will go on top, but it should be per 1 day. So we need to do a little dividing. Grab your calculators and punch in 12.6 divided by 18. Pause the video, and when you've completed the calculation, turn the video back on. Please pause your video now. You should have gotten a K rate of 0.7. Now remember, we can write that over 1, 0.7 over 1. And as we record this down below with labels, because remember, unit rates need units, we see that Bark the dog eats just a little bit more than Sam does. Sam eats 0.6 pounds, whereas Bark eats 0.7. Well, let's take a look at our third dog, where our information is given in a graph. Max the dog is our third dog. And remember, anytime you get a graph, you're going to want to make a t-table with X first, and we can clearly see that X represents the number of days and Y represents the pounds of dog food. Please write this down. Now we need to grab a few good readable points off our line. As you look at the points, we see that this is a readable point and this one is a good readable point. The first one is 5,2 pounds, 5 days, 2 pounds. And our next point is 10,4. Over 10 days, this dog eats 4 pounds of food. Now that we have a few values in the table, we can begin calculating our unit rate. Remember, our unit rate will be pounds per 1 day. So let's dig in and calculate our K rate, which is a Y value over its X value. So we're going to look at 2 over 5, 2 pounds for 5 days. And we're going to divide. Pause the video and punch in for this problem 2 divided by 5. Please pause the video and write your decimal value down when you have arrived at it. You should have arrived at a decimal value of 0.4. That's your K rate. We know we can put that over 1, and actually, let's write it here below. We know that Max ends up eating only 0.4 pounds per 1 day. So clearly, Bark eats the most and Max eats the least. Let's take a look at the question we must answer. If we go back and look at our original question, they wanted to know which dog eats the most per day. We would respond, now you have to answer, which dog? You might say something like this: Bark the dog eats the most. He eats 0.7 pounds per 1 day. Now, let's take a look at our next problem. In problem number 2, it states, which tomato stand has the cheapest price? You've been given a graph, so you know you have to set up a t-table with X and Y. X will be the number of pounds of tomatoes, and Y will be the cost in dollars. So when we calculate and compare for each situation, you're going to place Y over X. And in this case, it will be dollars per 1 pound. We're looking for the cost per 1 pound of tomatoes for farm stand number 1, for farm stand number 2, and for farm stand number 3. Once you calculate the unit rate for each, you need to compare and decide which stand offers the better rate or the cheapest price. Complete this on your own, and when you're ready, turn the video back on. Now look for the answer in the attached answer key under Google Forms and compare your answers to the one found in Google Forms.